Welcome, Norton Advantage members. My name is Oliver Friedrichs. I'm Director of Emerging Technologies in Symantec Security Response. When dealing with social networking sites in particular, it's very important to remember that not only can you download and become infected with malicious code by downloading the inappropriate content from these sites, but it's also a potential for you to disclose confidential information, for you to give up personal details and personal information that you may not want particularly widespread. It's important to remember that anything you say on these sites can be seen by literally everyone in the world. Most of the threats that we see today target home users, whereas in the past they may have targeted enterprises, financial institutions. Today, the primary target has become the home user. Home users have been targeted for a number of reasons. One is that attackers today are after your financial information. They're after your credit card numbers, your social security numbers, your identity. They're trying to steal as much as they can from your computer. And what we find is that home users continue to be the weakest link. Many home users don't have the adequate security solution installed to protect themselves. And home users also are more susceptible to types of attacks such as phishing, whereby they may be brought to a site impersonating another brand on the internet and may be susceptible or may be enticed into disclosing personal information to that site. One of the other big problems that we see today is the increased use of what we call crimeware. Crimeware is malicious code that tries to steal your information. It has the specific goal of trying to take data from you and from your computer and send that back out to a criminal who's actually infected you with that piece of crimeware. Crimeware has continued to rise. The majority of threats that we see today are targeting confidential information. So not only do we have phishing sites that are trying to deceive you through fictitious websites, we also see malicious code that is written specifically to try to steal information from your computer. One of the newer types of attacks that we've seen is the introduction of malicious code into video files and in video codecs, for example. That's where you may go to a site that claims to have a video on it, and in turn, you need a specific codec installed on your computer. And what we've seen now is that not only attackers, but also in some cases spyware vendors have really latched onto those codecs and are bundling their threat or their spyware with that particular codec application. So we see an entirely new model here where we're seeing a bundling approach as attackers are bundling their threats with other applications in an attempt to seem legitimate. So this raises a number of concerns. One is it's a whole new twist on social engineering. A lot of times you're more than willing to install a codec or install or download a video file, for example, in an effort to view it. It's certainly not an entirely new attack. We've seen it in the past on peer-to-peer networks and other forums where people are exchanging content, but we've recently seen a fairly significant increase in the prevalence of that particular type of attack. I think it's a given that any file that you receive over the internet today has the potential to be malicious. And it's very difficult for you to actually know whether it's malicious or not. We see files and threats embedded in Word documents, in Excel spreadsheets, in PowerPoint presentations. It's extremely difficult to know whether or not a document itself is legitimate today. So again, this is an area where you really need to rely on technology to tell you whether or not a particular file is malicious, whether it's a document file, whether it's a video file, or whether it's a program that you may have just downloaded from the internet. What you as a Norton Advantage member need to keep in mind is that the internet is really like a snowstorm. When you go out there, you need to have your parka, you need to have your gloves, you need to have your boots, you need to have your hat. It's very important to have the correct protection and the correct technologies in place to protect you against the blend of threats that we see today.